Hi, folks. Last time I saw you, I asked you for comments regarding what you'd like to see on this channel, and somebody asked Buddhism as a practice rather than a religion. So, this gets into the question of, is Buddhism a religion or isn't it? So, I'd like to read you something from a book I just got, recommended by somebody who watches this channel. I forget your name, I'm really sorry. Yuval Noah Harari, Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind. It's pretty good. In here, there's a section about religion, and it says, religion can thus be defined as a system of human norms and values that is founded on a belief in a superhuman order. This involves two distinct criteria. 1. Religions hold that there is a superhuman order, which is not the product of human whims or agreements. Professional football is not a religion, because despite its many laws, rites, and often bizarre rituals, everyone knows that human beings invented football themselves, and FIFA may at any moment enlarge the size of the goal or cancel the offside rule. Number 2. Based on this superhuman order, religion establishes norms and values that it considers binding. Many Westerners today believe in ghosts, fairies, and reincarnation, but these beliefs are not a source of moral and behavioral standards. Well, we could argue about that. As such, they do not constitute a religion. Despite their ability to legitimize widespread social and political orders, not all religions have actuated this potential. In order to unite under its aegis a large expanse of territory inhabited by disparate groups of human beings, a religion must possess two further qualities. First, it must espouse a universal superhuman order that is true always and everywhere. Second, it must insist on spreading this belief to everyone. In other words, it must be universal and missionary. The best-known religions of history, such as Islam and Buddhism, are universal and missionary. Consequently, people tend to believe that all religions are like them. In fact, the majority of ancient religions were local and exclusive, etc., etc. Now, if that's his definition, and maybe it's your definition of a religion, then Buddhism as an overall thing fits the definition of a religion a bit. Mostly, probably. The thing that got me into Buddhism was that I initially perceived it as being something different from a religion. This is how it was presented, and this is still how I prefer to talk about it today. I prefer to talk about it as something other than a religion, and I'll tell you why. When I was first getting interested in religions as a thing, I visited several churches in and around Akron and Wadsworth, Ohio. And I discovered that what they wanted from me was for me to believe in what they believed. And this didn't make much sense to me. For one thing, the beliefs themselves were very difficult for me to accept. I couldn't accept, for example, that Jesus was born of a virgin and that he ascended to heaven and that he was up there waiting for me after I died. I couldn't accept that. But even if I could accept that, and I did try, I couldn't understand why God, who ruled the entire universe, would care what a 17-year-old kid in Wadsworth, Ohio, believed. That part didn't make any sense. So I drifted around, and in late in high school and in college, I started trying to get into the Hare Krishna movement a little bit because George Harrison was into it, and I was a big fan of the Beatles, and particularly George Harrison. I liked his solo stuff a lot. So I tried to get into that, and their initial pitch is that they don't require you to believe anything that you can't test for yourself. So, for example, chanting Hare Krishna will make you happy, and eating vegetarian food will make you healthier. And these are demonstrably true, they say. And if you start eating vegetarian food and chanting Hare Krishna, you'll be healthy and happy, and then then it's a practical system, and that appealed to me. The problem was that you didn't have to dig very far into the Krishna thing until you found that it was exactly the same as the Christians that I had rejected. They demanded that you believe certain things. That, for example, your true self was this sort of ghostly thingamabob called an Atman that lived in your chest somewhere. And they have drawings that show what it looks like and where it lives. And that it remains unchanging throughout your life, and then when you die, it leaves your body, and there are drawings showing how this happens, and travels into either, if it's good, it goes up to Krishna Loka with Krishna and gets to hang out with him forever, or it goes back down and gets reincarnated as a person or an animal, or etc., etc. And it was very important to them that I believed this. Now, belief is a real interesting thing, because belief becomes stronger when other people believe in it. And something else I got from this book, Sapiens, that was very interesting, was how the one thing that almost everyone in the world believes in these days is money. And this is a very interesting thing, because there's nothing intrinsically natural about money. Money doesn't have any real value. It's pieces of paper, pieces of metal, and they don't have any real value. There was a time back in the beginnings of money when they tried to use things that were intrinsically valuable as money, but not everybody agreed that gold, for example, was something they really wanted. Gold is pretty useless. Using different kinds of food and shells as money, it didn't fit. Some people thought they were valuable, and other people didn't. Somehow, this culture of money emerged, and it's fairly universal. Everybody kind of accepts it because everybody believes in it. Money would stop being valuable if everybody stopped believing in its value, and we do see this. We see shifts in fluctuations in the value of different currencies based on people's belief in them. But we still believe in money as a thing, you know. What I'm trying to say is, because everyone in the world, or almost everyone in the world, let's face it, believes in money, then the belief in money just becomes more and more powerful until it seems real. Religion has a harder time, because not everybody believes in the same religion. Now, Buddhism is an interesting thing, because what got me interested in Buddhism as it was presented to me when I first got into it was that the Buddhist teachers I met and the Buddhist books I read weren't concerned with trying to make me believe anything. I could believe whatever I wanted. If I wanted to still believe that Jesus Christ was the Son of God and rose from the dead and all that, I could believe in it. The best example of this that I can come up with is about 3 years ago. I was in Tassajara, which is a Zen monastery up, I think north is that way. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's up in Northern California, and I was eating dinner one day there, and I noticed the woman across the table from me was just sitting there, and she had some water, but she didn't have anything to eat. And I said, "Well, what's wrong? You don't like what they're serving today?" I was actually working in the kitchen, not either kitchen or dining room staff at the time, so this might have been why I was concerned. And she said, "No, I'm fasting for Ramadan." So there was no problem with her fasting for Ramadan and keeping her Muslim beliefs and practicing in a Zen center. This is unfortunately not true of every form of Buddhism out there. as I always say, Buddhism is 500 years older than Christianity. So we all know that Christianity includes such things as Catholicism and the Presbyterian Church and Baptists, which are kind of similar, but it also includes the Mormons and Christian Scientists and Jehovah's Witnesses and a lot of other groups who deviate quite widely from what we consider mainstream Christianity. Same thing with Buddhism. There's mainstream Buddhism. There's all sorts of other stream Buddhisms that tell everybody they're mainstream, but really they're not, and so on and so forth. Stephen Batchelor has been highly critical of his experience with Buddhism because he encountered a lot of Buddhists who wanted him to believe very specific things, and he couldn't believe them. So these do exist. But Dogen's style of Buddhism is not about belief, and you can just do it as a practice. So the most important thing to me as far as Buddhism is concerned is the practice of Zazen. And the practice of Zazen is intended to allow you to go beyond matters of belief. Whatever you believe has no import when you're sitting Zazen. You can believe whatever you want. You're still sitting still and still observing the reality of your life. And as that develops, your belief system generally changes. Nishijima Roshi used to like to say, "I only believe in reality." This probably, gets all kinds of people all hot and bothered because, like, how do you define reality? But what he meant by that is he doesn't define reality and then believe in it. He believes in what he experiences as reality, as a real thing. So in this sense, Buddhism is mainly a practice and not a belief system. The belief system is up to you. Now, having said that, I have recently introduced into my practice and some of the things I do certain aspects which seem religious, honestly. We do chanting at the beginning of a meal in our retreats, and there's a short version of the meal chant which doesn't have much to do with beliefs, but we do the longer one in which we're dedicating our food to Manjushri and Samantabhadra and Avalokiteshvara and a bunch of mythical gods, I suppose you'd say. They probably originated as local deities or something, but they came to represent to Buddhists certain qualities like compassion and so forth, like Avalokiteshvara represents compassion. So some of these things seem religious, and there's some bowing and some lighting of incense in front of Buddhist statues and things like that. There are others who are working with Buddhism in the United States and Europe and Australia and places like that, who have tried to create a purely secular sort of Buddhism that has nothing, that doesn't even have these little touchstones that they consider religious. And I'm not against that. I think it's taking things a little too far, possibly. But if people are uncomfortable with saying Manjushri and dedicating their meals to Avalokiteshvara and putting a piece of incense in front of a statue because they think it's religious and it represents a belief system, then okay, well, maybe we can get rid of that stuff because it's not important. And I agree that it's not important, but it's part of a system of what I like to call research and development that has gone on for many, many years with people who meditate. What happens often when you meditate is things can get a little freaky. This doesn't happen usually at the outset when you first start meditating. When you first start meditating, it's usually just boring. But a lot of the very deep stuff that you can get into in your head can be a little scary and weird. And part of what we have done, we being thousands of years of Buddhists, who I guess I am part of, is to create certain rituals and things to try to ameliorate and try to help with some of those sorts of problems. and they're very old and they're very well established, and they generally work. Now they may be culturally bound, I would say, but they generally work. And if you have a good teacher who tells you that, look, you don't have to believe in Avalokiteshvara, and you don't have to believe that Buddha receives the merit of your offering of incense, you don't have to believe any of that, but just do it because the action itself will kind of help get you a little calmer and a little more grounded and a little more centered, then you can do these things, and they don't have so much of a spooky aspect. Now, having said that, both of my teachers, Nishijima Roshi and Tim McCarthy, they don't do most of those rituals, and because they too believe in making a more secular form of Buddhism. And I'm kind of a weirdo who thinks that maybe we can try some of these older forms and make them work in certain contexts. But I don't think they're important. So ultimately, I would say that Buddhism is a practice rather than a religion, and it's certainly not a system of beliefs, although there are forms of Buddhism in which you will be told you must believe in this, that, and the other thing. I stay away from those forms of Buddhism. I don't really consider them to be legitimate forms of Buddhism, although people would probably beat me up for saying that, so I'm saying it at the end, and hopefully those people aren't listening anymore. So that's my little take on that question, and I'm going to try to tackle some of your other questions. Feel free to leave suggestions in the comments section of this video. As always, my Patreon page is linked, and my blog is linked, and all sorts of other goodies are linked below, so see those, and like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow and helps me out a little bit. Thank you very much. See you next time. Bye.